Hi, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Mr. Cordes, and today I want to talk to you about focused note taking. Everyone takes notes a little bit differently. There are lots of different ways and styles and methods to taking notes. However, I kind of want to go over some basics that will kind of help us get structured for when we gather information. The first thing that you'll need to do is to open up your Google Doc or open up a Word document and craft what you see here. The way that you would normally take a set of focused notes, they used to be called Cornell notes, is the idea that your notes are on one side, your information is on the other. So if you have specific words and then you need definitions, you have history dates, and then you need an explanation of the event. Focus notes really just help us to focus on the material. It's a way of organizing our thoughts so that when we step back from studying, we're able to look at things specifically. This video is set up for you to pause whenever you need to. And so you can get that information and jot down your own thoughts. But as I go through, if I'm going too quickly and you need additional time, just go ahead and hit that pause button and you can go at your own pace. So with that being said, you've got your page of focus notes set up. You've got your name, your class, your date. Usually at the top somewhere, there'll be a title, right? What is the title? So is it annotations? Is it reading strategies? Is it elements of fiction? Today, we're talking about focus notes. Okay, so I've got the title up there. And then underneath is the essential question. Usually the essential question helps us identify, oh, I should have this accomplished by the time I'm done with this lesson. So for us today, our essential question is, what are the basic components of note taking? Okay, what are the basic components of note taking? So as you see here, we've got several different things. I like to always remember, it's called the STAR method. Okay, the STAR method is a way for us to help each other or to help ourselves with the process, the entire process of taking notes. So off to the side, let's go ahead and type in or write in the word STAR. And first and foremost, congratulations. S stands for set up. Okay, set up is as simple as setting up your paper. Okay, this could be drawing lines, inserting a table, right? This could be where you are getting your paper set and ready to go. I always loved when I was in college to, before going to a class in the morning, I would get my backpack ready and I would make sure, okay, I've got at least 3 pages of notes set up like this. So as soon as I get to class, I don't have to worry about drawing lines or folding, or I could just sit and listen to the professor. So the first thing that we do is we set up. You guys probably pause the video, set up your page, and you are good to go. Now, obviously, T, any guesses on T? Take notes. That's simple, right? Take notes on, you guys are doing that right now. You are taking notes on this video. So taking notes could be from a lecture, okay? Could be the lesson or maybe a worksheet, okay? Maybe your science teacher or math teacher gives you a worksheet and you are taking notes from that. Maybe you're watching a history video, okay? And so those right there are ways that you would take notes. And again, the great thing is that on one side, you've got the notes area. On the other side, you have information. So you guys can see here how I am placing things next to each other. So if I was to say, what's the STAR method? I could put my hand over the information, block this part out, and then begin to study back and forth. Okay, so I take notes in this area. The A is for where you would answer questions. So you would like answer, or sometimes it's even annotating. Okay, annotating is a way to engage in a lecture, and we'll be talking about annotations later. But annotations is where you essentially engage in the text, right? You engage in your notes, so you go back and you double check definitions. Maybe you wrote a word but didn't know what it means, so you write that word in or the definition in. Maybe it's also going back and reorganizing your notes. Okay, this is where we answer the questions that we may have had over here. So lots of times as I was in school and listening to the teacher, I would actually write down a bunch of questions. And then at the appropriate time, I would raise my hand and say like, hey, I've got this question about this topic. And then that way we could piece things together. So you set up your notes, get your page set up. You take your notes. So just like you guys are doing now, you are actively taking your notes. Then you go back to your page of notes and you answer, you annotate, okay? You kind of engage yourself with the work that you've just done. I know a couple people that go back with a highlighter and highlight. They took a whole bunch of notes, but they want to highlight just the stuff that's important. And so that's what they go back and do. The very last one is to review. Hope I wrote R twice right there. The last one, this could be as simple as like reviewing, which is essentially like studying. Typing too fast for my own good. Reviewing, this could also be like rereading. Okay. This could also be items as far as like revisit. You have to revisit the textbook. You have to revisit the worksheet or the video. Some of you guys may pause this video and revisit 10 or 15 seconds back. That's a possible thing as well. So this is where you go back and review. So the STAR method for notes is just that. You set up your page, get everything organized. You take notes as the teacher is talking or as you go through the lesson. Then once the lesson is done, you go back and answer any questions. You go back and annotate. Maybe you highlight for what you think is important. And then you're able to sit there and review your notes. A lot of times the summary down at the bottom is really just 2 to 3 sentences of review. Essentially, what did I learn? Right? Some people in this part answer the essential question. So if I were to ask you what are the basic components of note-taking, you could say, well, there's the STAR method, setting up my paper, taking notes, answering questions, and then reviewing. Okay. Well done with your focus notes. This is what your page should look like right now. The other thing I wanted to mention to you are levels of questioning. Okay. We ask questions and they are all at different levels. Okay. We mean it's in our heads, but we don't necessarily we're not able to like process them or identify what they are until we kind of begin to pull them apart. So I'm going to make myself a little bit bigger here as I move down the page. Levels of questioning. There's different ideas. Okay, levels of questioning, and then I'm going to say, let's go on this side to say, actually, let's back up. Levels of questioning, and then on this side, we're going to say words associated with that level. Okay. So the very first level is very basic, very, very basic. Okay. Levels of questioning. This is essentially level 1. Okay. This is where you like define or describe something. So the words, let me go back and annotate my notes by underlining this so we can see a differentiation between the heading and the notes. I love doing that. Okay. So the first one is like where we define or describe something. So other words, this is where you would like identify, maybe get a list together. Who are the characters, right? Define the characters. Who is in charge of the the hotel, or who's in charge of the restaurant, like whatever story we're reading, and whatever, like what are the action items, right? The plot points. You're listing those plot points. This is where you would also like kind of like name things. I'm looking over here at my notes, like recite. This is, again, very, very basic type level of questioning. Now, the second brings us to a little bit more in depth with our story. So for this one, this is where we essentially analyze. And to analyze something means that we pull it apart. So we figure out how it works, but we have to really critically think about what is going on. So the first one is just basic. Who was in the movie? What movie did you see? What was the movie about? Like, you just kind of basic. Analyze is to say, oh yeah, these characters work together. There was a theme of, X, Y, and Z. The message of the story was this. So analyzing, this is where you, I want to say, you like understand the complexities of a story or a text. This also is where you would like compare and contrast. Okay. You would also, in this moment, you would infer things. Infer is an educated guess based on your assumptions and prior knowledge. Sometimes it's your new knowledge. So you infer things as you watch movies or television shows, and it comes naturally because you'll be watching something and you'll be like, oh, I bet you something's going to happen, right? I was watching a movie the other night and there was like this random box thing in the very beginning. And I was like, I have a feeling that's going to come back. And I'm inferring to the part of that is probably important. I want to know why it's important, and then figuring out as we go through as I was watching the rest of the film. So analyze is where you pull things apart to understand the complexities of it. And that's our second level. So you compare and contrast. This is one thing. This is another, right? We do that when we walk out of the movie theater or we're finished with a show. Oh, I liked it, but I didn't like it as much as this. Or they could have done this, but they could have done that. And you begin to, I don't want to use the word evaluate because that's on our next level, but you begin to kind of conceptualize why were the things that they were in that moment. Okay. The other thing besides, we've got analyze, compare and contrast, infer. You can also synthesize. Synthesize. I misspelled that. Synthesize. There we go. Synthesize is where you recap something in your own words and explain it. Okay. I have students all the time come up to me. They say, hey, did you see this television show? And I say, no. And then they begin to synthesize it for me. They tell me the general idea in one or two sentences or phrases. Okay. So define and describe. That first level is very basic. Define, describe, list, identify, name. The second one is where you analyze things. So you understand, you compare and contrast, you infer, you synthesize. Your brain is functioning on its own to come up with new and different answers. Now, the third level of questioning is where you begin to, let me go back here, is where you begin to evaluate. When you evaluate something, this is kind of like judging, not in a negative way, but you're kind of, it's like a critique. There it is. Sometimes my spelling game is just not on it. Critique, okay? There's also the ideas where you can apply something if you're like in science, studying a science. There's also the idea of like speculation, predicting, right? I got to the point where I was predicting when that box would come back in that movie. I began to judge what was happening and evaluate the characters based upon their interactions with each other, and then how that related back to that significant box. So you guys evaluate things. Usually this is like, oh yeah, I liked the movie, I didn't, but then explaining why. Okay. I love going to the movies, especially after I've read the book. Obviously I'm an English person, so I read the books first, but I evaluate and judge and critique, which is a third level idea of questioning. I compare it to the book. So I'll sit there for The Hunger Games or Harry Potter or Percy Jackson, a series of unfortunate events. I will sit there and I will evaluate the two and be like, okay, the book did this, the movie did this. How is that different? How is that similar? Which is part of analysis and compare and contrast. But it's also the component of evaluating. I'm critiquing, oh, the book said this and they did it this way, which emphasizes more of the characters, right? They did this because they wanted to get theme across. Here they did it for character development. So you kind of begin to pull things apart, okay? So this right here, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to be using the STAR method. So anytime that there's a video or a lecture or we're talking in a live discussion about taking notes, you're going to want to use the STAR method. Okay, set up your page, get it ready. I actually am going to later on this afternoon make a template of a focus note page in my Google Docs so I can quickly pull it up anytime I need it, and I can just simply make a copy and then it will be right there. And then there's the levels of questioning. The levels of questioning help us process and engage with items on different levels. Okay, this will come in handy. Sometimes I will ask you to give me a question. All right. However, it won't necessarily, I'll say, oh, no, I don't want a level 1 or 2. I want a level 3 question. And you guys will be able to put that down, but I'll remind you and prompt you. Okay. So that concludes it, guys. I know I went fast. If you did miss something, just go back and review the video. Make sure you have the notes on STAR method, setting up focus notes and taking focus notes, as well as the levels of questioning. Talk to you guys later. Bye.